Hello everyone, I'm a registered nurse with the state of Texas. In this short video to my peers, I'm going to present patients' rights as consumers of healthcare protected by the Title 22 of the Texas Administrative Code, which is actually the Texas Nursing Practice Act, and some of the Texas Boards of Nurses rules and regulations, along with the privacy rule of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. First, I will talk about informed consent. According to Westrick 2014, informed consent is given patient right to take informed decisions regarding his or her own treatment, medical treatment, given the pertinent information about the treatment. A lack of informed consent from the patients will constitute a legal basis for liability to the healthcare provider. A proper informed consent has to be signed voluntarily by the adult and capable patient in the presence of the witness before any surgical procedures, including anesthesia, explaining to the patient the risks, the benefits, and the side effects of the procedures. According to Yoder-Weiss 2015, the patient must understand the procedures and the possible consequences of the treatment refusals. If the patient still has some questions about the procedures, all questions have to be addressed before any procedure started, and it is a duty of a nurse to inform the healthcare provider about this uncertainty of a patient until all issues are resolved. The only exception to the informed consent is an emergency situation, meaning that any delay in medical treatment might result in injury or even death of a patient. There are few requirements also, which implies that patients has to be unconscious or no one else is there to represent the patient's interest, and that the healthcare provider believes that any reasonable person would actually consent to the treatment. According to Cherry and Jacob 2014, the lack of informed consent or failing to give proper informed consent can give claims against nurses and healthcare providers in the legal cases of professional negligence. In order to apply the legal protection for the licensed nursing, we have to enforce the proper informed consent. The patients also have the right to refuse the treatment according to the Patient Self-Determination Act of 1990, while the minors and incapacitated people will be favored by the courts if there is a belief that vulnerable population is not kept under the best interest by their legal guardians. As Cherry and Jacob 2014 assesses that the society recognizes the right to die in dignity, many of the patients will enact their end-of-life advance directives for healthcare. Advance directives can contain a living will with a durable power of attorney to protect the patient against any violation of his rights through a proxy or surrogate or a substitute in case that the patient becomes ill or incapacitated. Westrick 2014 finds that the patient rights are being protected through the living will according to the patient wishes, and this by appointing a trusted proxy, which constitutes advance directive for healthcare, a mix of both end-of-life documents. According to the Westrick 2014, do not resuscitate DNR or allowed natural death AND orders can be introduced in the advance directives. However, most patients are unaware of this fact, and this is why nurses are the best patients advocates, giving education to the patients and family upon their rights. Cherry and Jacob also assess that healthcare providers cannot be witnesses or surrogates for advance directives, and also that a nurse has an absolute duty to respect the DNR order and failing so a nurse can be accused of battery, negligent infliction of pain and suffering, and wrongful life. A patient can revoke a DNR at any time. HIPAA violations. According to the privacy rule of 1996 from the from Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which is a federal rule that gives the patient the right to privacy and confidentiality of his or her protective information, which include names, social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, hospital name, room numbers, pictures, diagnosis, lab results, and anything else that would identify a particular patient. HIPAA states that the privacy rule applies to all employees working in the healthcare, such as doctors, nurses, technicians, students, residents, faculty, and also billing and coding services. Nurses have a legal and ethical obligation to protect private health information, PHI, and according to Cherry and Jacob, 2014, there is a federal law that allows only disclosure of non-identifiable information to the patients for medical purposes, while HIPAA allows the whistleblower protection for reporting violation against protective health information. The only healthcare providers allowed to have access to PHI should be the one with the right to know, according to Westrick 2014, and the one that are directly implicated in the patient's treatment, and family members that are identifiable as family members. In 2011, the National Council of States Boards of Nursing reported that the misuse of social media constitutes the grounds for disciplinary actions against nurses, such as unprofessional and unethical conduct, mismanagement of patient records, breach of confidentiality, and also NCSBN published a brochure called A Nurse's Guide to the Use of Social Media, reviewing the great risk that the explosion of social media is posing to violate HIPAA unintentionally, a violation that can carry large fines and even imprisonment time with suspension and revocation of the licensed nurses and even some civil lawsuits. Social media should be off limits when talking about professional life, separating on purpose private and professional life altogether to keep the nursing license out of danger by strictly maintaining professional boundaries, since as nurses we have an ethical and moral duty to protect patient confidentiality information. According to Yoder-Weiss 2015, the nurse must know the policies and procedures of healthcare facilities regarding also phone information, and have two identifiable ways for a person who have a right to know about PHI. Patients also have a right to know their own medical records, such as a copy or online access. Nurses are held to very high professional standards, hence we should uphold the duty of protecting patients' rights at all times. And I hope this very short video was informative and that you enjoyed. Thank you all.